Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Hireup Session number 3. My name is Ash and I'm part of the Learning and Development team here at Hireup. I'm really excited for tonight's Hireup Session, What is Wellbeing? Because we have an amazing panel here that I know are going to give some awesome perspectives tonight. And I'm going to get you guys to introduce yourselves in a moment. But we launched Hireup Sessions 2 months ago now, and the response from the community has actually really been exciting. Our last Hireup Session, which was hosted by Dom, it was insights into autism, and it reached over 60,000 people, which is pretty cool. So thanks for tuning in tonight. If you're watching via Facebook, feel free to give it a like, share it. I feel like the more people involved in our conversation tonight, the better. Before we do get into it though, I might do a couple of housekeeping things. Firstly, we scheduled 30 minutes for tonight's session, but the nature of a conversation like this is we could talk all night. We won't, but if we go over a little bit, sorry in advance. If you have to pick up the kids or go off to a shift or something like that, feel free. We're going to be sending a live captioned version of this video in the coming weeks, and you can share that with the people in your life as well. You might also notice that we have Joe tonight, who's our Auslan interpreter. One other thing just to mention is that we originally said that Ben Hicks was going to be a part of the panel tonight. And unfortunately, due to some personal stuff that was going on, Ben isn't able to come tonight, even though he was really excited about adding his perspective and experience to the conversation. And I might take this moment to thank Dom, because Dom, with about 24 hours notice, volunteered his story or his experience to this conversation tonight, and he's going to be bringing his experience with mental health. So thanks, Dom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So to start the conversation tonight, I thought the best place would be to talk about the reason why we wanted to have this conversation. Our first Hireup Session was about support relationships and building those healthy support relationships. And after we released that, heaps of our community said, well, can we talk more about well-being? What is that? How do we have practical tips to build on our well-being? So tonight, that's what it's about. We're not going to go into details about psychosocial disability tonight. We're going to do that in the future for future Hireup Sessions. Tonight, our panelists are just going to bring insights and experiences that will most likely show off that, well-being is very different for every single person, I reckon. And also in the lead up to tonight, we asked anyone who registered the question, what does well-being mean to you? And I've been reading over those answers. And I think the thing that stood out the most to me was the fact that everybody that answered it interpreted that question so differently. So I think tonight's conversation is more about just opening up the floor to experiences, and hopefully you'll get something valuable from it. But with that in mind, let's kick things off and get you guys to introduce yourselves. So I might ask each panelist to introduce yourself and maybe tell us why it is that you wanted to come and talk about wellbeing tonight. Emily, I might start with you.
Yeah, great. So my name is Emily Dash. I'm a writer, actor, motivational speaker with a lived experience of disability. But I'm also very much into personal development and very interested in different approaches to well-being. So I was really excited to be involved in the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. I think you're going to add heaps of value. I've had a conversation with you just yesterday. I think your answer is going to be amazing for tonight. Madeleine.
So my name's Madeleine Ferrari, and I'm a clinical psychologist and a lecturer in the School of Psychology at ACU. And a lot of my research and clinical work focuses on a construct that I'd argue is really core to wellbeing, and it's called self-compassion. And it's a simple idea, but a really powerful one. So just in a very quick nutshell, why is it so easy to say really kind, supportive things to a really good friend who you care about, who you want to see do well when they stuff up? And yet, why is it so hard to say those exact same things to ourselves? And practicing that ability to be self-compassionate seems to be really beneficial.
Awesome. It's going to be interesting to unpack that a little bit tonight. Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I live on the New South Wales Central Coast with my husband, who is a community physiotherapist. We're really busy raising our 2 beautiful young children, aged 8 and 9, who are both on the NDIS scheme. I also work in this area. I have a part-time job. I'm part of the Plan Tracker team. And I wanted to join this conversation tonight, I think, first and foremost, because wellbeing is something which I've always valued. But my role as a mum has been the time in which it's really challenged me to think, I guess, outside my ideas about wellbeing and broaden them, and to really look at how I can implement those in a day-to-day basis to benefit myself, but also my family and my community. So thank you so much for inviting me tonight.
No worries. Well, thanks. And on behalf of the community, I think that's going to be an interesting perspective tonight. Dom.
Me. I guess I wear a few different hats tonight. First hat is someone with lived experience of mental ill health. I'd say I typically experience generalized anxiety and depression. So I can talk into that. Second hat is I'm a Hireup support worker. So I totally value everything we're doing here at Hireup. And I'm also part of the learning and development team here at Hireup. So I get to work with you every single day.
Nice.
And why I wanted to be part of this conversation, I guess, I've had a whole host of different experiences throughout my entire life. And I feel like I do have some practical things that I could share with the Hireup community. So in respect to wellbeing, that is. So that's why I want to take part tonight.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear the conversation that comes out of tonight. I think it's going to be a good one with so many different perspectives in the room. And, you know, in the lead up to this conversation, when I was thinking about how to have this conversation, I was thinking, well, for me, what does wellbeing actually mean to me? And I was Googling it, as you do. And I think the definition that resonated with me was the definition from the World Health Organization. And it says, it defines mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their potential. They can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively, and take part in their community. And I think that's probably a good place to start. And I wanted to ask you, Madeleine, you are a psychologist, and reflecting on this definition or this idea of mental health and well-being, what are some of the practical things that we could all be doing in order to improve our well-being?
And look, it's such a broad question, hey. But coming back to this idea of coping and bouncing back and handling the ups and downs of life, I think self-compassion is a really helpful concept to be aware of and to really genuinely give yourself permission to practice. I know that for me, like, when things go wrong or when I stuff up, this critical voice comes up, and I call it the Lord Voldemort voice, because that's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
It's that voice that says you're not good enough. Why even bother trying? You've made a huge mistake and this is irreparable. And that voice is what can cause a lot of harm and really damage our well-being. And self-compassion is a really practical way of combating that voice. And we've got that skill set because it's really easy to show support and love and kindness to a child or to a friend who we care about. But it's just taking those actions and turning them inward and giving yourself permission to be kind in those moments when things are going wrong.
Totally, which is often easier said than done, right? And I think flipping it around and being able to be kind to ourselves is something that we could all probably learn from at times. I'm sure we all struggle with. I want to ask you, Emily, I want to bring you into the conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, life isn't always, great. It's full of ups and downs. But I wanted to know for you, when things aren't quite going to plan, what are the things that you're doing to look after your well-being?
There are quite a few things, and as I said, I borrow from a fair few different approaches. One of the main things I do is that I like to focus on gratitude. So I keep a list of things that I'm grateful for and reflect on that every now and then. And I find that really, really beneficial to my well-being. The other main thing that I do is make sure that I'm living by my values, because success to me is defined by living by your values. And so that means setting goals, committing to those, and again, just giving yourself that self-compassion when things might not be going according to plan.
Awesome. It seems like you've got some real strong practical things to do to keep that self-compassion. Like, you write down that list of things you're grateful for, you set your goals ahead of time, and you really work towards that, even when it's hard, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Awesome. Dom, I want to ask you though, you described yourself before as someone who has lived with mental ill health. Mm-hmm. And I want to know for you then, what are some of the things that you do to look after your well-being? And does that change based on what you're experiencing at the time?
Yeah, it's a good question. It definitely changes depending on what I'm experiencing at the time. I guess to kind of summarize, I try and set real positive habits myself. So for me, at the moment, I'm really big into practicing mindfulness. It's something I've been doing for a long time, and that includes that incidental style of mindfulness, where I might be trying to just be present in the moment, and that's really hard for me with a brain that's going all over the shop. But I also use the Headspace app, which is a great app. I pay for it, I subscribe for it. I know there's a free version, or not a free version, but you can sign up to Smiling Minds, which is like an Australian free model of a meditation app. And I try and do that every day. Just take 10 minutes out to kind of be silent and go through a guided meditation. But there's all those practical things that I think most people try and do. Try and get a good night's sleep. If I don't get a good night's sleep, I usually have an average day. I also try and eat well. Obviously that kind of makes me feel better about myself. And kind of wrapping up, doing those things like practicing gratitude where I can, and a whole host of other things. But that's easier said than done. Sometimes I'm in a bit of a funk, and it's hard to kind of be mindful. But I guess the last thing I will try and do is talk to people when I'm having a tough time. So open up those conversations. That's a big part of my wellbeing.
Totally. So it seems like a different perspective. Every different person is experiencing what you're doing for yourself differently. And Sarah, I did want to bring your perspective into this conversation. You've described yourself to me as an enthusiastic mum before, and I'm sure there's plenty of parents tuning in tonight. So I want to know for you, how is it that you manage to prioritize your own well-being with so many different competing priorities around you?
Yeah, sure. It is a lot of competing going on in my world, certainly. But first and foremost, I wanted to acknowledge that it is really difficult. While I am enthusiastic and I like to be incredibly optimistic, however, I don't want to alienate anybody listening in tonight if they're feeling like it's overwhelming and it's something that they can't really achieve, this idea of prioritizing. So for me, I think the turning point where I felt that I was able to gain some ground in this area was when I switched my mindset. So what actually does wellbeing look like? What could it look like for me? So previous to having children, Mike and I were incredibly active. We spent lots of time outdoors doing the things we loved. We traveled, lots of activity, lots of those things that keep us well. And now our circumstances are different. So I don't have the opportunity to go hiking on the weekend and to take long weekends or to take half a day out just like that and decide to spend some time doing something relaxing. Yeah. So I really had to look at what are the things in my circumstance, in my reality that I can do. So that was kind of overwhelming, and I got myself into a bit of a knot a couple of years ago about it, but I wanted to share a really neat way. I'm a visual person. I really like lists. I'm motivated by lists. So a really neat way that I learned a couple of years ago to help me sort of look for the opportunities. So I had an A4 piece of paper, and the heading question at the top was, what do I enjoy to do? What do I enjoy doing with? And then ... And then I had lots of columns, and they were brainstorming columns. So the question was, what do I enjoy doing with? The first column was when I have 20 seconds to myself. What do I like to do when I've got 5 minutes, then 30 minutes, then half a day? And then the final column was, what do I enjoy doing when I can schedule maybe a month in advance or something that I can look forward to? So as I popped that on my fridge, and I got some ideas from webinars and books and talking to other people, and it was a working list. So some things went on the list and I tried them out, and then they got off the list quick smart. But as about a year went by, I found that I had a really great full columns every single time slot. And so now actually it's in me. It's part of my idea. And so some things come, some things go, and I always see the opportunities. Yeah.
I love what you said about finding the time. You can find a time in 20 seconds. It's like well-being is not necessarily about doing something that's like a whole day, like going to the spa, for example. It's actually just about what can you do in that 20 seconds to kind of treat yourself, or to be aware of yourself, be self-compassionate. I know for me, that made me think then, like, what do I do with my 20 seconds? Like, I'd never do that. I'd jump on my phone or something, because maybe I could be thinking about what am I doing for myself. I know for me, the thing that I do to look after myself is I love dogs, right? So I volunteer at a dog shelter. But that's quite time consuming. It's like a whole day, but I love it. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel relaxed. Even though a lot of people would be stressed out by dogs, it makes me chill and makes me a better person. And on that, what you're saying, I'm wondering if the other panelists might unpack a little bit. Is there one thing that you do It can be for 20 seconds or for a whole day like me, but is there one thing you do to prioritize your self-care? So yourself. Emily, do you want to start?
Yeah, great. So there's quite a lot of things because self-care is really important, particularly when you're busy. I'm not always that great. But so there are the normal things like the watching Netflix, reading, writing, whatever it is that you like to do. But then, and it's gonna sound like this is being planted and you've asked me to say this, but I think one of the things that I really pride myself on and put a lot of effort and time into is prioritizing my relationships, because I believe that we're here for connection, we're wired for connection. And so, for example, friendship, I think, is a really sacred thing and a really important thing that sometimes gets overlooked. So I will take the time to genuinely develop my friendships, even if that's a text message every 2 weeks that says, hey, how are you going? We should catch up whenever we have time, etc., etc. And I might not see people for months and months on end, but it's that idea of being present with people. And for example, we had Are You Okay Day the other day, and it's a similar sort of concept, except I just bring it into daily existence.
Yeah, you don't wait for one day, you do it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. And you kind of touched on this idea of like relationships or friendships and how that plays into your well-being, but also probably your friends. And I think I want to come back to that, Emily, and kind of unpack that in a moment. But for Madeleine and Dom and Sarah, is there that one thing that you guys do?
Yeah, and look, I think just echoing what you said at the start, knowing that this webinar was coming up made me think, well, how am I going with self-care at the moment? And I'm someone who really prioritizes it, but even like I've let it slip lately, and just having this webinar as a chance to kind of recalibrate and rethink about what's right, and hopefully that's a chance for people listening out there. But my two things are, I've got to be in a team sport because I'm way too lazy to go to the gym by myself.
Nice.
And secondly, say no.
Right.
Yeah.
Saying no to, so what you're saying is like not overcommitting yourself.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And not taking on too many shiny new exciting balls and then being overwhelmed and not enjoying any of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think saying no and planning out your time and valuing your time is really important.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to share what's really effective for me at the moment, because things come and go, as I said before, but right now the nature of supporting my children is really physical and really intense. It's sort of, it starts as soon as my eyes open in the morning until they close at night. So the two things that I'm really trying to sort of connect and harness are two processes. The first is long, slow, deep breaths, because hey, we're all breathing, so we may as well make it really effective and work for us. So that's something that I'm always checking in with. I can do it when I'm driving, I can do it when I'm on the computer, or you know what I mean, I can do it any time of day. And the other thing is what's going on in our limbic system, which is like, I guess you'd say it's our headquarters of emotions inside of our brain. And the fastest way to access that is through aroma or smell. So usually I carry around an essential oil bottle wherever I am driving or working, grabbing groceries, whatever. And then it's simply a matter of just rolling it on my palm and then inhaling like that. 20 seconds.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's something that no matter where I am, whatever I'm doing, are you going to do some? All right, we're doing it.
It is good.
We need smell-o-vision.
Yeah.
So those two things are so, and the other great thing is that you need some too. So.
I'm a little nervous.
The other thing is that I can do that even when I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, when I'm really at my lowest point, if I have something in my pocket, in my bag, wherever, and that can start the process, and then I have a moment to pause, and then I start making better decisions for myself. So that's my thing. Yeah.
Great, and I love the live demo.
Yeah, great.
Now you're awake.
Peppermint,
it's really
Putting it in practice.
We are.
What about you, Dom?
Yeah, mine's probably not as profound. I might share a tip that I got from my psychologist. So something that I've been trying to do every day is schedule in some white space. And what I mean by white space is just doing nothing. And in order to do that, I know we're going out to Facebook Live and hi everyone, but I deleted Facebook from my phone. I use Facebook, but I just deleted it from my phone, and I deleted Instagram from my phone. So it means that I'm on the train going to and from work, I can have that time just to try and do nothing. It's very hard, and I struggle with it a lot. But scheduling white space, and what I mean by that is just do nothing time for myself.
Wow. Cool. So such a different array of different things that we do in that time.
Yeah.
I think personally from that, I was like thinking, oh my gosh, I could do all of these things to help myself out. Emily, I want to go back to what you were saying before about relationships. You brought up relationships and how friendships are really important to you. And I'd say, on Hireup, like we're all about building new connections. And, since we launched, we've had like 13,000 new connections.
Yeah, right.
And often what we hear from the community is like those relationships or connections are so important to our well-being and who people feel like they are. And I want to ask you, Emily, you do have relationships with many support workers. And I want to ask, knowing that they can have an impact on your life, what characteristics are you looking for in a person to make sure that they're the right one for you?
Yeah, all right. So I might just give this a bit of context. I have support workers basically with me all the time. I'm quite an independent person, but I do need assistance with all activities of daily life. So people are in my space and in my, I have to share space and time with people every day. So it's really important to have people that I get on with who we have shared interests and who also respect the boundaries of when I need my own space and my own time to myself. And if people can respect that and also respect that I am my own person and that I can make my own decisions. And so it's not about telling me what they think I should be doing. It's about supporting me to do what I want to do. Those are the things that are really important to me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. I think that's super valuable, particularly for our community.
Yeah.
And like that idea of finding, it's up to you about those relationships that you really want in your life, right? And the things that you want to influence you positively. And Madeleine, I'm going to ask you one of those more loftier questions again. And I want to know from your perspective, you've studied psychology, you're doing a PhD in self-compassion. Is there a connection between our relationships and our well-being, do you think?
150% yes.
Nice.
Yeah, like definitely. I mean, you used the word hardwired before, and we're biologically programmed to seek out connection. It's the reason, our ancestors as cavemen survived, because they pooled resources, they had emotional support and practical support. We're hardwired to seek out that connection.
Awesome. So that was the answer that I thought you might say was yes. And can I ask, is that something that you're, in your PhD, is that something that you're understanding, this connection between other people as well as our connection with ourselves?
Well, you've just given me an idea for another study that maybe I should weave in. But I think, so I'm focusing on self-compassion and having a really healthy relationship with ourselves. But I think the next logical step is if you've got a healthy relationship with yourself, you're then in a better headspace to have an even more meaningful connection with other people. Rather than sort of using a double standard of being kind to others but not to yourself.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
yeah, you've got me thinking.
I think you've got maybe 2 PhDs is enough. Maybe
What do I say? Say no.
Yeah.
That's right.
Maybe wait for the first one's done. But Sarah, I want to ask you, I'm not going to give you a PhD, hopefully, out of this, but I do want to know for you, obviously we all have different kinds of relationships, and you were talking before about all these competing priorities. I'm sure from talking with you that your friends are a big part of balancing your own well-being and prioritizing yourself. So how do your friends play a role and your relationships play a role with your well-being?
Yeah, look, after we chatted last week, I thought about this more and more, and it was really great, actually. Thank you for that conversation, because it brought on a whole lot of other insights and clarity for me, I think. But I think there's 2 parts that I wanted to share. I think, first of all, my relationships help me grow as a person. They broaden my insights into the world, and they challenge me as well, and they clarify things for me. The other thing is, I think some of my friendships are a protection for me. The reason I say that is because I've noticed over time that I invest in those relationships and I become more resilient. Yeah. So sometimes when I'm interacting with people, it's not necessarily then that I receive the full benefit of that. It's actually later on down the track. Sometimes when, hardships come along and life, throws unexpected things, and that friendship has gifted me something. Have we got time if I can just share those two examples? Yeah, okay. So one example of this is Rebecca, a mum who also has a child on the autism spectrum. So that's the scenario in which we met. But one of the things that struck me about Rebecca was first couple of conversations meeting her at a social event was her sense of humour. So often we can connect about the challenges and hardships and we swap tips and, that kind of thing. But Rebecca's capacity to do that and connect on a deep level and a sincere level, but also have the capacity to laugh at herself and have a great sense of humour was just startling to me at first. But then I noticed after socialising with her and having a really good laugh, like a solid get in there and you just tears and the whole thing, stomach aches. Really, I walked away and I was like, I feel so well. I feel incredibly well. And what it gave me was the insight that I didn't have that in my life, that sense of humour. Yeah. So that's something that Rebecca's brought to my life. And I'm incredibly grateful because now I can sort of notice that and prioritise that and cultivate it in myself. And the other friends I want to share about the relationship is that we really connect on a value level, and she has connected with my vision for my family and where I want to see my children move towards. And boy, she's a real tough nut because she keeps me accountable. She can see things, notice things about my behaviours or about how I am, and if they're moving away from, even keel, if they're things that don't serve me well, if perhaps she notices my life isn't as balanced as it was, she'll call me out on it, and she'll, in a nice way. Look, sometimes I try and fob her off. I honestly do, but I can't. I really can't get rid of her. But in the big scheme of things, I think that's an incredibly valuable friend to have. Yeah.
Awesome. Like the value of different kinds of friends in your life.
Yeah, I think so.
Ones that you can laugh at, one that can pull you up.
Yes,
that's right. Good. Dom, really quickly from you, mate. You do have that lived experience, like you said, and I'm wondering from you, how important is it for you to be able to talk about your experience with your mental health with, say, your mates?
It's probably the most important thing, and go past mates. It's friends, family, and my partner. But holding something into yourself isn't always the nicest possible feeling, and you share it with the right people. I don't go and share things with everyone, but it's finding someone who I connect with and trust. And as a male growing up, it's something that I really struggled with, being vulnerable and being open and honest. But honestly, it served me so well just by opening that dialogue with my friends and those close to me. And I think people see it as reciprocal. They can then open up and talk to me, which is something that I really value. Yeah.
Awesome. I would agree. It's sometimes quite challenging, but I think it's worth doing. I want to state the obvious. We're obviously talking about positive relationships generally, the ones that make us feel good. But to be fair and to be transparent with everyone, like relationships don't always go the way we may have planned. And I want to ask you, Madeleine, what advice would you give someone if they felt like a relationship they had was having a negative impact on the way that they were feeling?
Yeah, and look, I think the first thing is to be really honest with yourself and acknowledge that feeling. Like we all have people in our lives who we might not feel great about from time to time, but if you're walking away from seeing someone and you're feeling bad about yourself or you're feeling uncomfortable, don't try to push that away or explain that feeling. Honor it and give it time. And sometimes putting aside time to think through, well, what is it about that dynamic that puts me off? Or what am I thinking or feeling every time after I see that person? And then the last thing I'd say is sometimes at that point, it can be really hard to get perspective because you're in a dynamic, right? You're in the relationship. And so sometimes getting a third party's perspective on what's going on can be really helpful just to help you get perspective. So it should be someone you trust, like you were saying before about, you know, friends or family or co-workers who you know have your back, who you know are going to give you good advice. Or it might be helpful to link in with a counsellor or a psychologist and get that independent third party. Because when you're in it, you're in the messiness. It's hard to get that perspective, I think.
Absolutely, getting other people into perspective. Emily, I want to know from you, we'll talk about your support relationships or support workers before. And to be honest, not all support relationships go to plan either, and that's okay. But what are the things that you're doing to set expectations for those relationships so that you can try and avoid issues arising, I guess, in the future?
Look, I think that one of the things I do is I set expectations from the outset. So basically that I have a folder and a list of things that people are expected to do and, you know, how they're expected to be and act. So people have that basis to work from. But then going forward from that, it's just about being able to communicate and listening if I'm saying that something isn't working or that something might need to be done a different way, listening, and that goes both ways. So it's important that the support worker and myself have an open and honest communication. Yeah, I think those are the things that are important to me. And also having the confidence to be assertive and have the courage in your convictions, basically. And so for me, I know what I need, and I need to be able to state that clearly and effectively in order for a support relationship to work. And if I have trouble doing that, as I know, you know, some people might, then it's getting that assistance, whatever that support might look like for someone to be able to assert their needs.
Yeah. Wow, well put. So this idea of being able to actually have people listen to you, and you say having those conversations, which from tonight, something that I'm learning is just the power of any conversation, whether it be about picking people up on your expectations or just to have a conversation and say how you're feeling. Sarah, from you, I want to go to the other side of that kind of picture for a moment, and I want to ask you. You manage your son's account on Hireup, both your sons, and so you have a team of support workers. Obviously, your well-being and your son's well-being is priority number one. But do you do anything to check in with the support workers from time to time?
Yeah, so I would agree with Emily exactly. Having that conversation at the outset to try and set the expectations. But I certainly raise that as being something that while they're here to support the priorities of what's going on in our household with our family and our children, but certainly I want to flag it that I recognise that their well-being is important too, and that it may come up in the future at some time. They may need to raise something with me. So I really put the invitation out there that at some point, if you feel we need to have a conversation, then please, by all means, feel that I'm open to that conversation. And the other thing that I sort of do around that is sometimes I need to sort of state what I feel is a lot of details. So I say, for an example, if you feel anxious leading up to a shift or something, you feel you need to talk to me, perhaps contact me before you arrive at the front door. Yeah, and I bustle you in and lock everything up and say, come on, because that's not the time necessarily. It's not. I'm not going to have the headspace to give you attention in that way, in that relationship. Yeah. So I try and set, I guess, my limitations for it and try and show them the way that it can be successful, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm aware of time, but I want to say that, like, we've spoken a lot about relationships, whether that's checking in with people, making sure there's that expectation. But I guess, to be fair, some people might not feel like they have those kinds of relationships around them, that to have those conversations. And I guess at those points, that's when people give us that advice. You need to seek professional help or talk to somebody about this. And that can be pretty daunting, to be honest. Whether it's your first time or you're going back, it's still pretty daunting. And I wanted to ask Madeleine, you see new people every day. You're a psychologist. How do people utilize better access? How do people actually get into the psychologist? And how does Medicare kind of help us get there?
Yeah, definitely. And firstly, just to debunk one of the biggest myths, I think there's this misconception that you need a really serious mental illness to go and see a psychologist, and it's just not true. So all of us will have times in our life when we're experiencing distress or things are starting to interfere with work or family or relationships. And it can take a bit of work to get to a psychologist, but the first and most important step is seeing your GP. So just a medical doctor, they'll ask what's going on for you and write up a mental health care plan. And lots of people don't realise that then entitles you for between 6 to 10 sessions with a psychologist or a clinical psychologist. And lots of people might Google beforehand and find someone who they think that might be a good fit working with. Or GPs will always know the practitioners in their area who they regularly refer to. So use that resource.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a valuable thing. I think we all have access to it, and sometimes it's about taking that step. And I guess, GPs aren't going to judge us for coming along either, So I think that's, if you're thinking about it. And it's a sign of strength.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And wanting things to change.
Yeah. I guess also, though, to think about it from a different angle for a second, maybe really quickly, Dom, I might ask you, what if somebody has gone along and has gone to see someone and speak to someone, but then they kind of don't feel like they're gelling with the person that they're engaged with?
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy one for me because I can speak from experience. I think I saw 3 psychologists before I felt like I had that click. And it might sound weird, but I think in life we click with certain people and don't click with certain people. As much as you're amazing, I'm sure certain people might not have clicked with you.
150%.
And from my personal experience, the first psychologist I saw was really clinical. And, the second was a little bit, not to my liking in terms of the bit of an age gap. And thirdly was someone who was like, okay, cool, this is a really casual setting. Felt like I was talking to a close friend, although they're a professional. And that was what worked for me. So for me, persistence is really key. I know it's really tough, and it's really tough when you're in the midst of things not working. But it's why I'm able to sit here and talk about mental health so broadly. And yeah, really glad I did persist with that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's that persistence, and also realizing that you do deserve support. And if it's not working, then just you can change that. You deserve the right support for you. I do want to say we're coming to the end of our session tonight, and that was that conversation flew by. And I want to say on behalf of our Hireup community, thank you to each one of you, because I think you really opened up and shared some interesting perspectives and really unique experiences to share. And I might just finish off with one final question. If you could all in one sentence, if possible, leave our Hireup community and us with one final message, what would it be?
So for me, when I was thinking about this, I kept coming back to the sort of motto that I live by, and that is this: life is like eating an ice cream. It's often difficult, sometimes messy, but always enjoyable if you can find the sweet thing.
I like that. Awesome. Yeah,
how can I follow that? Yeah. I think my comment would be, when things are going wrong and that Lord Voldemort voice pops up, rather than believing it, know that if you can treat yourself with a bit of kindness in that moment, not only will it feel better, but the research says you'll actually be more resilient and do better in the long run.
Awesome. Sarah?
I think I'd say that wellbeing isn't a destination to be reached, nor is it a skill that's perfected. It's simply one of the many life experiences that we have as we journey along. So just like tomorrow will come, then there'll be another opportunity to try something new, to change, and there's always something to look forward to.
Awesome. Yeah. Don?
Yeah, I guess for me, often I would go and ask someone for help or advice, and they'd give me a solution. And often I was just looking for someone to give me their ears and listen. So listening is vitally important. If you get the opportunity to just listen to someone, that's the priority.
Awesome. And guys, I know for me tonight, I've taken a lot of this on board, and I hope that I could kind of take out a lot of this. I think I can really value the things that you guys have shared. And on behalf of the Hireup community, I just want to say, hopefully they valued it too, and I'm sure they did. And obviously, we could really be having this talk all night. I feel like we could just keep going, but we won't do that. We've spoken pretty broadly tonight about well-being and being pretty honest about ourselves and about our well-being. And, if we have spoken about anything tonight that you feel like you need to chat to someone about, I would always recommend calling Lifeline. It's 13 11 14 is their number. But basically it just means you can talk to someone at any time of the day. It's just a really good resource if you need it. I would also say, if you did have any questions about tonight, definitely feel free to reach out to us. If you feel like we haven't spoken about something that you wanted to talk about, please let us know. We're really, really open to feedback, and we really welcome all that feedback. We want to have these conversations on scale. It can be challenging, but it's with your feedback that we make it better every time and we improve. But guys, that is about it for our discussion tonight. So thank you so much for sharing. And if you have registered tonight, you'll be sent a live caption version of this video in the coming weeks. I'm also excited to say our next Hireup session, which is happening next month, is going to be on Hireup, the NDIS, and thinking outside of the box with the NDIS, which I think is going to be a really valuable topic for our entire community. So stay tuned for that one. But until then, unless you've got any questions, we'll speak to you then and take care. Thanks for tuning in.